Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's Xanassin Trophy for race 9 of 9, the title decider from the Dragon Trail Seaside 2. We're in for an absolute thriller. Let's take a quick look at the current championship standings into this last race. Demon R leads the way but only by 2 points from SGP, and then Steve F1 is not far behind at all. Tyler sitting in 4th place at the moment with Dave the Hard battling with Mitch for that 5th place, and Mandalorian not too far behind them either in 7th. We then got Twilight in 8th, Fluffy 9th, Jason 10th, Bunsel 11th, Rich Blues 12th, Jimmy 13th, Groover 14th, Formula Gary, then SRI, Diesel and Conrad. Okay, let's take a look at how the drivers are going to line up for this final race of the championship, the title decider. SGP is sitting on pole position and he's going to need to finish ahead of Demon R within the top 5 to take the title this time around. Demon R is going to start on the front row with SGP, and Steve F1 sitting in 3rd at the moment. He's going to need to win the race and hope that SGP and Demon R have an absolute nightmare. Mandalorian is going to start in the 2nd row with him. We've then got Diesel and Mitch, Twilight and Dave the Harp, Formula Gary alongside Groover, Fluffy Planet alongside Jimmy, SRI will line up next to Bunsel. And then we've got Rich Blues and Tyler, who didn't get a time in qualifying, but also didn't get to the start of the race, unfortunately. Anyway, time to head over to the track for all the action. And joining me on commentary today is Steve. Steve, it's the title decider. Are you ready for this one?
I am. I've got my champagne on ice, but wonder which driver has theirs.
You might have your champagne on ice, and I'm sure Demon R and Steve F1 have too. So we're now waiting for the lights to go out and the race to get going, and away they go. And it looks like SGP has had a brilliant start from pole position, moves across to cover off Demon R, who's sitting in 2nd place. Steve F1 though trying to have a look up the inside for 3rd. No, he's not going to have to hold on. Mandalorian is trying to attack him as Demon R is close to the back of SGP, but SGP goes defensive as we head towards the bus stop, the OAP's Bench of Doom.
The Bench of Doom it is indeed, and our old driver's going to get through there cleanly on this first. Look how quickly they're all going through there this way round. Mando touch on the wall, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few more cars back there lost a bit of paint.
Yeah, I think Diesel got into the barriers there as well. Demon R wasn't as quick through there as he wanted to be, because Steve F1 is all over the back of him, but Steve F1 has a poor hairpin. Obviously we're all used to seeing the DGT guys race around this track in the other direction, but driving it this way has its very own new unique challenges, the bus stop being one of them, and this downhill section, Steve. Usually a very easy flat out uphill part in these cars, but in these cars downhill, tricky as Diesel's showing.
Well, yes, and we're going to have to try and find a name for that corner where I'm sure we're going to see cars going off hitting the wall. I think we're going to have to name it after whichever driver hits the wall first. Ooh. And that's Mitch and Diesel there at the double left-hander, and Diesel going to drop her down a few positions there. Whoa, and a bit of contact as well. But up at the front, SGP under pressure from Demon R. What's Demon R's game plan going to be here? Because obviously starting off this race 2 points ahead of SGP, and if it stays as it is, SGP going for the pits. No, he's not. He's breaking the slipstream. If it stays as it is, Demon R's not going to have this one in the bag. SGP will be.
Bloody hell, what drugs have you been taking?
Alcohol.
Oh, right, okay. Regarding, with the Mandalorian got big sideways then. With the situation between SGP and Demon R, as you'll be able to see on your screen with the little graphic showing as it stands who is in the title fight and in what position they're going to be in. Not going to show you the points because it's too much of a pain in the arse to mathematically work out, but the positions are relevant. Demon R closing in on the back of SGP, but he's made a mistake. He's running wide as Steve F1 gets really close. Yeah, you mentioned about 2 points. I mean, interestingly, for SGP, he just needs to stay where he is, in front. If he stays in front, he wins.
Just needs to win. That's all he's got to do, win the race.
Yeah, like he did at the last championship, but unfortunately it didn't go right for him regarding every other driver. But if he can win the race, he wins. It's as simple as that. For Demon R, he's got to be ahead of SGP, really. He has to be ahead of SGP, especially if they're in the top 5. But the dark horse is Steve F1, because if Demon R or SGP or Mandalorian all over the curb, that's so nearly disaster. Yeah, if SGP and Demon R absolutely bin it, Steve F1 could still easily win it, because he's only I think he's 6 points off the lead.
Is enough off the lead that all he needs to do is be there to win it if these two mess up.
Exactly. Mandalorian's looking like he's heading towards the pits. Yes, he is. He's going in. Fluffy. Oh, Steve F1. He's going for the move on Demon R. This could be costly for Demon R, but priceless for Steve F1. Up the inside he goes. Demon R doesn't find that one too much interesting. But yeah, for Steve F1, this is exactly what he needs to do. He needs to beat the both of these guys. So we've kind of got a brilliant situation where SGP needs to win, but then Steve F1 needs to win. But Demon R doesn't need to win. He just needs to beat SGP, or at least not be too far behind. We're not going to go into the whole lot of it. Just keep an eye on that graphic. What we've got here though is Twilight putting a bit of pressure on the back of Dave the Harp. Twilight has had a tricky season, saying that, so has Dave the Harp. I mean, Dave the Harp won the first race. Oh, Diesel is ever so close to the back of Mandalorian. Can he make a move? No, Mandalorian goes defensive in to the hairpin. I think Diesel may have just tagged the back of him there as well. Got himself out of shape. I wanted
just to say, bear in mind, Mando's pitted. He's going to be heavy on fuel. Diesel should be able to overtake him in the faster sections.
Quite possible. Yeah, I need to correct myself. You know, in the last race we talked about how somebody had broken the pole to win ratio, and I mentioned actually no, Dave the Harp did it at Monza in the first race. In actual fact, it turned out it wasn't Dave the Harp that had pole at that first race. Yeah, Dave the Harp was fourth at that first race, but won the race.
Yeah, I mean, after that first race, we thought Dave the Harp would be an outsider for the championship here, but he's still outside, unfortunately.
Yeah, that he is. It's been a tough season for him. It's been a tough season for a few of the drivers. Rich Blues, though, coming under a bit of pressure. I really hope that Rich is not the person that hits that barrier you were on about earlier. Otherwise, we're going to end up having a corner called Dick Corner.
Yep. Or if it's a Mitch corner, it could be a bitch corner.
It could be. Bunsell is in a mixed rich sandwich though at the moment, and probably not where he really wants to be. This bus stop chicane, Steve, this way around, what are the challenges to it?
Well, it's fast in and fast out, but it's challenging because the walls are very difficult to spot to get your line correct. And if you tag the wall, you lose so much time, and you also end up being in the way of every car that's going to be coming around the corner next.
Exactly. Oh, Mitch got a big sideways on there. Mitch, I know, has not been overly pleased with his performance in practice around this track, finding it a little bit difficult. I mean, a lot of drivers have found driving this way around the track a bit tricky. Oh, Mandalorian's big tank slapper behind Mitch as Rich has ran wide, and now Bunsell makes the move. This is fantastic stuff. Oh no, Rich has hit the wall. Oh, great.
It's the Dick.
It's the Dick corner, yeah. Well done, Rich.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich. Yep. Named it after you.
You know what? I know that we commentate on this post-record like this a few days after the race is not live. I didn't know that was going to happen. That was not pre-planned. Mandalorian there trying to put some pressure on Mitch all over the curb. Oh, big sideways for Mitch. He's had a few of those moments, but then again, so is Mandalorian. You mentioned about Mandalorian being heavy on the fuel, and that's why the likes of Mitch at the moment can still pressure or fight in towards the first corner as Diesel trying to have a look at the inside, Jimmy going deep around the outside. But yeah, Mandalorian could find himself in a situation where he's not going to be gaining a lot of time here, or no, side by side towards the bus stop. Get ready.
This is not going to be nice. No, you don't go 2x2 through there. That's better. Single file, and you all get through nicely. Well done, lads. That's how it should be.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if they'd have gone, I mean, going the other way 2x2 is extremely difficult. Going this way round, it's even harder because that first part of the chicane is tighter than the second part. But so yeah, brilliant to see the drivers there sort themselves out into single file. Got to say, absolutely fantastic. To be fair, I thought we was going to see absolute chaos and carnage, but not to be on this occasion. And just having a look at Fluffy, also pitted, I think, at the same time Mandalorian did, and he's catching up. Oh, Bunsell's been into the Dick barrier, he's been into the Dick corner, and he's slow in Dick corner.
He got hit by the Dick.
I wonder if that's Christian Horner's brother, Dick Horner. Oh god, so it almost seemed like I planned all of that, but not to be. Okay, SGP has opened up a bit of a gap to Steve F1 at the moment, but I've got to say, where's Demon R? He's dropped right off from these two.
Yeah, could he be saving fuel to try and undercome at pit stop? Is he going for a different strategy, or has he just not got the pace?
Well, I hope it's undercut and not undercome, like you just said, because that sounds a bit messy, but maybe. I mean, one of the things I was going to mention a moment ago with Mandalorian and his heavy fuel is over the last few races we've seen the likes of of Steve F1 and SGP pit and get out before the pack because they've been doing a short first stop. I'm wondering if Demon R is questioning what's happening in this race because he's been on the opposite end of those pit stops from the likes of SGP and Steve F1. So maybe he is just looking after fuel to go longer and copy whatever these two do. Because really, in Demon R's situation, all he needs to do is be near these two at the end of the race to be ahead of them. That's all he needs.
Look at the track map. Look at the gap that these three have got to the pack behind. Actually, it's 4. We've got Twilight there as well. Yes, so we've got a gap there. The front 4, including Twilight, have got a nice gap, and then I don't know whether it's big enough to pit and come out ahead of them.
It might be though, because as we were just running through to the pack here, Formula Gary hasn't pitted yet. Neither has a couple of the cars. So Formula Gary, Mitch, Diesel, SRI haven't pitted yet. SGP into the pits he goes. Is he going to be? No, he's not followed in. Twilight's going to follow him in though. Last time Twilight did that though, it ended up badly for him, copying SGP strategy. I think it may be different today though, but that does mean that as it stands now, SGP would not win the championship because Demon R is ahead of him. But obviously SGP has made his way into the pits as David Harp is up alongside SRI. Diesel ahead of them. David Harp trying to go deep around the outside. SRI hugging the inside with Groover. They get through the corner, but David Harp can't get the move done. Is he going to try and go side by side into the bus stop? I wouldn't want to go through there too quick on my own, let alone next to a crazy drunken Scotsman. Yeah.
But I spotted he only put in up to 47% of his tank. So he's not put a lot in. It was definitely a short stop to try and get back out in front of that pack. But that could hinder him later because he's going to have to return to the pit lane quite soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think if David Harper's pitted. I don't think he has. I know Mandalorian was one of the earlier ones to pit. Now, interestingly, Twilight. Oh, David Harper! Oh, David Harper's gone for a bit of a dick barrier as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few people into that corner, into that barrier even. Yeah, I was going to mention about Twilight. I think Twilight must have put a hell of a lot more fuel in because he's come out in the pack as Steve F1 and Demon R both make their way into the pit. So they've done an extra lap. So they're probably going to get overcut here, which could mean that SGP would put himself back into title winning situation, which he will. But where will Demon R and Steve F1 come out?
At the end of the pit lane.
Well, obviously, yes, that is true. Steve F1 is out already. They're both out ahead of Diesel.
I just spotted though that Demon R, 61% of his fuel tank is full, so that's how much he's put in. So he's going to be on a longer stint here than SGP. As for a bit of lag there from Mitch. I thought he was about to wall up the wall, but it was a bit of lag. As for Steve F1, I think it said 51% of fuel in Steve F1's tank.
Twilight and Groover going side by side. I think Twilight may be wondering what had happened because he kind of followed SGP into the pits and he's come out right into the middle of a fight. But I think it's simply because Twilight will have put a lot more fuel in his car, so he's ended up much further back. But Fluffy has already pitted much earlier and he is only next to Twilight, whereas Fluffy would have been near Twilight before he pitted anyway. So for Fluffy it's not really working, although for Twilight it might seem like it's not working at the moment. In actual fact it really is. He just needs to keep going and stay away.
He was going to hit the wall then.
Yeah, stay away from the dick curb, you'll be alright. And Dave the Harp, who I think has recently pitted as well, is closing in now on Fluffy. Interesting, you mentioned there about, I didn't see how much fuel Demon R put in, but clearly he's put in, Fluffy going for the movies into the final corners. No, he's having a look, trying to get Twilight out of shape, but that's just allowed Dave the Harp to get ever so closer to the back of Fluffy. This could get interesting down the main straight because Twilight's got a slipstream and Fluffy hasn't.
Yeah, Demon R, 61 litres went in for Demon R.
Yeah, so Demon R's going to have a longer stint here. Oh, this is going to go 3 wide, Fluffy round the outside. What a move, Dave the Harp up the inside. I've got to say, fair play to Twilight there. Admittedly, yeah, Fluffy's done him round the outside and Dave the Harp's done him round the inside, but he could so easily have understeered into Fluffy or stayed tighter and hit Dave. So there's brilliant driving all the way through there as they go through the bus stop and the OAP clips the barrier.
Yeah, and probably wise from Twilight there. Just bide your time. It's a long race. It's not the last lap. Don't need to do anything stupid just yet.
Yeah,
Not that you should do something stupid at the end.
no, that is true. Okay, so just to touch again on Demar. So yes, he's put a bit more fuel in, which gives him the option to run longer. But crucially, he got out ahead of the pack. He got out behind Mitch, but I don't think Mitch has pitted yet. So I don't. Oh, Dave, the big sideways. Oh, he saved it. Oh.
I think everybody must have pitted if we're on lap 9. So I can't imagine them going further than 9 laps. SRI a little slow there. Twilight.
I didn't exactly see what happened there. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Mitch did pit much earlier on, because it'd be difficult to keep the pace he is at the moment without having pitted already. So Steve F1 trying to close in on the back of SGP. So I mean, the situation at the moment would have if it finished like this, would be that SGP wins the championship. Steve F1 I think would still finish in third, and Demon would be second. But there's, as you've just said, there's still a long way to go. 28 minutes left in this race, and Mitch making his way towards the bus stop chicane with Demon R closing in behind him. Or bit of lag, bit of barrier. He's sideways. Holy cow! Through a ghost. I think Mitch may need new underwear, and Demon R's, he definitely needs one. I've got a fair play to Mitch here. That's not easy to do.
No, he's patiently waited. Can be very awkward when you see all those cars going by, but he's obviously looked at the track map, spotted when there was a gap in the traffic, and that's when he's moved away. Definitely the wise thing to do in that position.
Yeah. Because if he'd have got going and it'd have unghosted him in front of another car, holy cow, plane crash of a car crash. But anyway, Steve F1 really is trying to apply some pressure to the back of SGP, and I mean, it's an interesting scenario this, because SGP in a way could kind of go, go on then Steve, you go on, I'll let you through, I'm not going to fight you, because SGP can finish a position behind Steve F1 and still win.
Yeah, I think if Steve F1 was to put a move on SGP, probably wouldn't fight it too hard. Well, here we got Twilight trying to come back at Gary. Obviously he lost a couple of positions a moment ago on the last lap. Gary though coming back at him, and good racing from these two.
Yeah, side by side they're going then down. Oh, Mitch heading into the pits now. I'm surprised if that's for a new set of tyres. He's got 30% of his fuel. Kind of Gary and Twilight. Well, yeah, he does need that. From what I've heard though, his garage won't take his old ones off him. So Twilight and Gary, they get it. Twilight's got a good run here, and they could end up side by side going into the bus stop. Someone is either going to have to be really brave or back out of it, and Twilight backs out of it. And to be fair, that's the brave move. Oh. Yeah,
it is. There's a lot of curve there from Twilight, but he's able to keep the pressure on Gary. And from backing out, he's at the chicane. He's there right behind Gary and able to put him under pressure into the next important part of the track, which is the difficult dip.
Yeah, it really is. So Gary, I'm pretty sure he has pitted recently. He had a tough race last time out. Didn't quite get to the end, but he's having a much better performance here today. Coming under a lot of pressure from Twilight. Is Twilight going to have a look into the tricky hairpin? No. And interestingly, as tempting as it is, this corner's not really a corner that you can just go chucking it up the inside, is it, that hairpin?
No. I mean, offline it's very slippery. I'm wondering, whether when you race tracks in the opposite direction, offline is even more slippier than usual, because it's not a normal braking point in the opposite direction.
Yeah, very.
It's not a gripped up part of track. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it is something out of the ordinary. And talking about out of the ordinary, right? I was in the gym this morning when I noticed a hole in my trainer, just big enough to put my finger in. Well, she's made a formal complaint now, and I'm barred for life.
And you wanted a reply from her on that?
No comment. No comment. Oh, Twilight and Formula Gary go in again. Oh, who's that? Is that Mandalorian and Bonsall? It is side by side. They nearly went, but back. I'm glad to see that drivers aren't going too aggressive here through the bus stop, especially this way around. There is really no winners by going side by side through there.
No, there's little point at all in doing it, because you're just going to be extremely slow on the exit, or you're not going to be moving at all, like Mitch a few laps ago if you get it wrong. Yeah. We've got lots of cars coming down the S's here, and Twilight and Gary still giving it some, and this is good racing, but because they've been battling hard, that pack's starting to build up behind them. and they're going to get swamped if they're not careful.
Yeah, well, Mitch always having a look up the inside of Bunsell into that hairpin we were talking about, and he's all out of shape on the exit, and that's one of the reasons why it's not the best places to try the move, because even if you can get up alongside on the way in, you might not be alongside on the way out. Oh my goodness me, I don't know what happened there. I think Bunsell and Mitch may have got together, and it's collected Twilight and Gary. That was a massive, massive crash.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for those two. They're having a great race until the others came along. That's unfortunate, that is. But anyway, back to the front, and we've got this battle still from SGP and Steve F1 with Demon R slowly reeling them in from behind. Just wondering now what's going to happen with strategies.
Well, it's an interesting one. I mean, I mentioned earlier about these two at the front having done a short pit stop at the first pit stop in recent races, and it's really worked. Obviously Demon R has copied them on that one at this time around, but we're almost at half distance, and this is where in previous races Steve F1 has tended to fill the tank to get to the end, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to do a similar thing. And to be honest, because that's what he's been doing recently, and so has SGP, and been making it work, I wouldn't be surprised if Demon R does the same. So the question then is SGP going to do the same? And to be honest, given the position that he's in, I think he will, because he's got more than he's actually pulling away from Steve F1 at the moment. So he's got more than enough pace, he's got more than enough tyre life. I think top up your tank all the way, go to the end and see how it goes, because at the moment, as SGP is into the pit, Steve F1 does follow him in. So they did have, 2 and 4% of fuel, and Demon R continues on. So we know that Demon R had more fuel in his tank. Could he not have just pitted and had a faster pit stop?
He could have done, but he's more vulnerable from the pack being further behind. But I've just spotted SGP 55% of fuel he's come out with. So it's Steve F1's only just leaving the pits now, so he's got a massive lead on Steve F1, but he's not got enough fuel to get to the end. So he's going to have a problem, but he is in clear air. Well, he's got nobody around him at the moment.
Yeah, well, you say he's going to have a problem. Well, is he? Because Steve F1 is in 10th, and he's closing up to these three. Oh, Twilight! He's closing up to these two. Oh, Twilight! Yeah, that was ever so close. And the SGP, he's come out just in front of Dave the Harp in 4th place. So in actual fact, SGP's in a pretty good position, but he's going to have another pit stop to make. I didn't see how long it took for him to actually do that pit stop, but if he's got another one of those to do, if it took, say, 15 seconds, he needs a 15-second gap over Steve F1. Oh, Rich, he's gone to visit his barrier.
He's been double-dicked now.
That he has, yeah, he has, definitely. Someone signed him up for Ann Summers modelling. Steve F1 is in a position to Demon R's into the pits and still had more fuel, so he could be on for a faster pit stop than the likes of Steve F1. But the question is, has Steve F1 been held up? And that's what I was going to try and get into now. As Steve F1 is trying to make a move on SRI, because he'll know that Demon R is in the pits, he'll also realise at this point that SGP is nowhere near him, and so he's got to get a shift on, and he can't afford to leave any kind of a gap as Demon R is on his way out of the pits. So Demon R doesn't gain anything by doing the extra lap. SRI trying to fight and fend off the reigning champion who could lose his title today. Oh, yeah, Demon R's come out. Demon R's come out behind Bunsell and Mandalorian. Could be costly for him because there's cars between himself and Steve F1. They're both wide. Oh, they're both in a barrier. Okay, there's no obstruction there for Demon R anymore.
No, and that's going to help Demon R a lot. But SGP is still ahead of Dave the Hart with clear track in front of him now because the cars in front are pitted. So nice big gap to the cars behind. But is it enough of a gap?
Well, that's the question. You know what? I'm going to try and do some kind of timeout. It's about a 10-second gap that SGP has got over Steve F1. Oh! I think that was Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy. Gone to see Rich's dick.
Yeah.
It's like
that barrier's getting pushed further and further back, isn't it?
Is this race in Australia? Do you want to see my deck, mate? Don't see more dick. Mandalorian putting pressure on Ridge Blues. Side by side they go as David Harp goes into the pits, so that frees up SGP even more as Mandalorian gets all over the curb. And Rich, I think, went to avoid him and just tagged the side of Bunsell there. Fluffy heading into the pits. Now obviously there is more than just the championship at stake here today. There are points for all of the positions the drivers are in today, and obviously there are still battles going on down the order, but obviously the main focus is on the championship battle. Now Steve F1 has got Formula Gary just ahead of him, and I think Gary is going to be due a pit stop soon. Steve F1 kind of needs Gary out of the way, and you can tell he wants to get past him, but to be fair, Gary has every right to be where he is and defend his position.
He has, and with Top Afton we get to see Gary up in second place, and he's having a good race so far, apart from a bit of contact when there was a collision that was not his fault. But this is nice to see from Gary being up in that second place at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
Albeit he needs another pit stop, like you say, but it's going to be frustrating Steve, that's for sure. And it's allowing SRI to catch up behind.
It is, and not only that, it's allowing Demon Art to catch up as well. So, I mean, Steve F1, we're always going for it up the inside into the hairpin. We said you can't really go for the move, but on that occasion, Steve was close enough. Oh, where's SRI gone?
Oh, he's gone into the wall to see his mark.
Oh dear, that's freed up Demon Art. Demon Art's got lucky here with a few free passes of people being in the barrier.
Yeah.
But
yeah, everyone's moving out his way, but it does mean though he's not gaining any boost from those cars being ahead of him anymore, so it's kind of like helped him but hindered him at the same time.
You know what, that's a bloody good point you made, as Gary has made his way into the pit lane for his probable final stop, as so does Jimmy and Bunsell and a couple of others, as well as Rich Blues and Dave the Harp, and Jimmy in the background battling away as Groover closing in on the back of Rich. By the way, just mentioned as well, even though we're 25 minutes into this race, in the bottom right hand corner on the spy cam today is Bunsell, so feel free. Oh my goodness, we're going three wide into the bus stop. No, 2 wide, no, 1 wide. Oh yeah, that'll do, that's not bad.
Yeah, whoa, you what a move.
Did he know he was doing it?
With Bunsell being on that spy cam, I think I'm going to have to watch this race back and just watch that bottom corner all the way through. And don't forget, guys, you can enlarge it by double clicking on it.
Yep, that you can. Okay, SGP has now a clear timing knowledge of where Steve F1 is behind him, and I think it is still about 9-10 seconds. I don't know if it's going to be enough for SGP to be able to pit and get out ahead of Steve F1, but he may be able to pit and get out ahead of Demon R, and at the end of the day it's Demon R he needs to be worried about. Let's see, David Harp, he's right in the back here, isn't he? Fluffy not too far behind him, Rich Blues right in front of him, and let's see if Davey's going to go for the move into the final chicane, as somebody has had a big spin, you know, in the downhill S's. Not sure who that is, but yeah, he's definitely cost him some time. But David Harp making the move now.
Yeah, he's up alongside Rich, but has he got the straight line speed to drag him around the outside? Rich is going for the pit stop, so that's going to make it a bit easier for the Dave. And I think Jimmy's into the pits as well.
Yeah.
Twilight. This team Twilight pit, that was a late pit stop. Twilight wasn't expecting Twilight.
Ooh, Fluffy's just chucked it up the inside of Groover, managed to get away with it. He will love putting that one over his so-called mate in Groover, but that's going to allow SRI to close in on these guys, who SRI has recently pitted, so I won't be surprised if he's got fresh tyres. And to be honest, we haven't talked much about tyres this race, Steve. From what I gather, tyre wear is not a massive factor at this track compared to others.
No, it's quite bizarre that as well. When you think of the high-speed corners and the heavy braking here, you think the tyres would give up a bit earlier, but it might have something to do with the latest update from GT, because I know they've tweaked some of the tyre wear on some of the circuits, so it might be something to do with that.
Sorry, SRI's getting alongside Groover. Can't see it at the moment because Mitch is, we're following Mitch at the moment. But yeah, SRI was getting really close to the back of Groover, but now Groover getting close to Fluffy. This could easily end in disaster, but yeah, we're looking more at Mitch. Now there we go, looking at Groover now. Groover is coming under pressure from SRI. Yeah, sorry to cut you off there. I thought there was going to be a bit of attacking, a bit of carnage, and there was nothing. Oh yeah, there is. It's coming now.
Yep, now you can cut me off.
Oh no, Groover's just tagged the side of the Oh, you know what? Groover's waiting for him.
Yeah. It's the weekly contact that is between two mates, shall we say?
Actually, I said
at this rate,
waiting for him, but he's not. Oh no, he is. He was waiting, but now seeing that Fluffy's gone into the pit, so fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of contact between them two seems to be the norm, really. I think they miss each other sometimes. Okay, SGP still leading. Steve F1, it's still about 9 seconds, and Steve F1 has got a decent gap to Demon R, but interestingly, Mandalorian is closing in on Demon R. That could play a bit of a factor. Diesel sitting in 5th, Harp 6th, and then was flashing through the order faster than my eyes can cope with, but not as fast as last week, thank God. But interestingly, I mean, let's see. I mean, if Mandalorian gets ahead of Demon R and Steve F1 gets ahead of SGP, I think SGP still wins. But if SGP makes his pit stop and ends up a position or two far back, Steve F1 could win this. He could win this from the outside. Yeah,
he could. It could be the outsider that wins it.
Oh, that's all right, big tank slapper.
Yeah, he likes his slappers, does SRI. Yeah, I mean, anything could happen yet in this race. I mean, we know that SGP is not fueled to get to the end. So what happens there, don't know. But with Mandalorian putting his nose up into 4th place, putting Demon R under pressure, anything can happen there as well.
Yeah,
like you said.
Gary trying to make a move on SRI. Yeah, I mean, he is making a move on SRI. Is he? No, SRI is having absolutely none of it. Get away, you Englishman. But with a Scottish accent.
And Gary says, "I'll see you later. I'm going around the outside of you."
Yeah, that's true.
And he's making it work as well.
Yeah, it was a nice move by Gary there. It's nicely done. And Groover closing in on these two. SRI having a look up at the inside, realises, yeah, it's not the place to do it. Yeah, Mandalorian. I don't know if he's got another pit stop to make, because I'm pretty sure that Steve F1 and Demon R kind of pitted to get to the end, sort of on the limit. They're going to have to fuel safe to get there. I'm not sure when Mandalorian did his last pit stop. Either way, he is closing in on the back of Demon R. But, I mean, for Demon R, the situation he's in at the moment is he'll probably know... I thought that was getting side by side. He'll probably know that SGP has got another pit stop to do. Excuse me, and probably knows he's probably going to come out of the pit somewhere around him. Groover, excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. It's not alcohol. It's a certain. Honest. It's not. It's a certain beverage in a red tin. Oh, excuse me. I don't usually drink it. What was I going to say? Yeah. So for Demon R, if SGP comes out of the pits as SRI goes up alongside Gary, we'll ignore Demon R for the moment because these two are having a cracking battle. Mitch going for the pit lane. Very late decision there.
Yeah, unless he's trying to get a jump on some of the guys that he's driving around and he didn't want anyone to follow him in.
Twilight's give Fluffy and giving Groover a nudge, and Groover gives SRI a nudge, and that nearly give Gary a nudge.
Yeah, they're all playing snooker there. What is a bit of a to you, to me.
Hi, or as it is now known, to you.
To you.
Yeah, to you. Oh! Who was that? That was a big hit into the barrier.
I heard it, and then I looked up and the car was ghosted. I couldn't figure out who it was, but it was a heavy contact. And I'm just trying to work out where Gary's gone. And I'm just hoping it wasn't Gary, but I think it might have been.
I think you could be right as well. I think it was either Gary or Twilight. Mandalorian, though, still putting pressure on at the back of Demon R. So, yeah, as I was saying, Demon R may be in a situation where he would have had to save some fuel to get to the end, right? It's just simply pitting when they did. That's what you need to do. But SGP probably isn't having to fuel save at all. He'll be running full burn. So SGP, all he needs to do is fuel it to the end of the race where he doesn't have to save fuel, and he could catch Demon R and Steve F1 having to save fuel. So SGP into the pits then. This is the critical moment. Where will SGP come out? Mandalorian, he's going to make the move on Demon R at the same time as well. That's really going to mix things about. So that puts Steve F1 into the lead. Mandalorian in 2nd place. SGP coming out of the pits in 4th place. Is he ahead of Diesel? Yes, he is. That is perfectly timed. Coming out of the pits. Now there's only one car ahead of him. Well, the car ahead of him is Demon R, so he can see where his target is. And I'm surprised actually, he's quite far back from Demon R. I thought he'd be much closer.
Looking at the time of that pit stop took, he must have taken tyres as well because he didn't fully fuel it. He's only fueled to get to the end. So he's got new tyres as well, and he needs to make them work.
Oh, he's running wide! He's running wide! He's sideways! Oh, SGP! He's lost a position to Diesel. That could be disastrously costly. That's a new word, by the way. Now he's got the pack. He better not look at his mirror.
Yeah. No, that's you don't want to see after you've just had a spin with brand new tyres and he's just toasted them.
Well, I was going to say, with the brand new tyres, up against Demon R and Steve F1's probably, changed at the last pit stop tyres, SGP would have had an advantage over them big time. Now, though, he's got to make sure he can just break away from this pack, number one, because this pack have been having an amazingly crazy battle all the way through the race, but then SGP needs to get ahead of Diesel and then catch Demon R as well. So SGP look like Groover's wide. Ooh, Mitch just avoids him, but Fluffy is close to Groover now. Let's see if those two bump doors, shall we?
No.
Wait till the corner. Oh, Mitch is having a look at Twilight. Oh, there we go. Oh, Mitch goes to cover Fluffy off, but it's a little late. Oh, bloody hell, Groover, where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Groove Right Joe.
Oh, okay, so who's in the wall this time then? It's got to be Fluffy's turn, surely. No, Fluffy's going to make it through.
Fluffy's staying well away from those walls. Okay, Mandalorian, we saw him make the move on Demon R into the first corner, and Demon R now looks like he's coming back at Mandalorian. Mandalorian's big sideways on the curb, and once again a driver giving Demon R a bit of a free pass. And obviously they're not doing it intentionally, it's just the way the race is going for him as Mitch is coming under pressure from SRI, the Stingray, stinging his way through. Well, maybe not quite. And they're all there close.
For SGP now, he's got to get past Mandalorian as well as Demon R.
Yeah.
So,
Dave the Harp going on the inside of Gary. Side by side they go as Mitch and SRI got sideways. Dave the Harp and Gary still side by side, just sneaking ahead. Fluffy trying to get in there as well. Is Fluffy going to go a bit of bonsai? No, he's not. Gary's going to hang it around the outside, become the inside. They're going to go side by side. Mandalorian is into the pits.
Yes, so that makes it a little bit easier for SGP, but he's still behind Diesel.
Okay, he had 20% of his fuel left. Was that been enough to get 5 minutes out of? No, it wouldn't be, would it?
Just with a bit of fuel saving, but maybe doing a lap or two short, but it would have been better off driving to the end and fuel saving, surely.
Well, I heard the only fuel saving Mandalorian knows how to do is when you turn the engine off. Oh no, Fluffy, you said Fluffy it'd be his turn. Last lap might be this time. No, I've got to say, I'm impressed at how many times these guys could have gone side by side through those corners, and every time we've gone, no, you know what, it's not the right thing to do. That is progress.
Someone slow up the hill though. Somebody slow going up the hill, I don't know who it was. Looked like they had a medic. I think it was the car ahead of these two.
Oh, right, okay. Well, Mitch was definitely being overtaken by David Harper as they go side by side down the hill. Mitch has had to back out of it. He's going to get swamped here potentially by SRI. Oh, someone's been in the dust. Someone's been to visit Rich's dick.
Yeah, and we've got Fluffy going for a move, and we've got Dave Harper just staying ahead there of Mitch still. Steve F1 though, he's going to be looking in his mirrors and thinking, where's everyone gone to in this race?
Yeah, just to let you know, you've just gone a little bit crackly, but it could be my audio as well. Okay, well, interestingly, the championship situation now is that if it was to finish now, Demon R, I believe, would take the championship because Steve F1 wouldn't score enough points to pass Demon R. So Demon R doesn't need to get anywhere near anybody for the rest of this race. Steve F1 needs Demon R to bin it, but he also needs Demon R to bin it and potentially take out SGP. But if my maths are, let's see, if Steve F1 finishes first and SGP finishes fourth with Demon R outside the top four, Steve F1 would win it. That's how close it is. And if Steve F1 and SGP were to end up on the same points, then I think SGP would win it on countbacks of qualifying pole positions, because him and Steve F1 have got the same amount of wins in this championship.
Wow. That's a lot of information to take in.
Yeah,
right,
even I don't know what the bloody hell I just said.
No, we've only got, though, 2.5 minutes of this race left, plus the last lap that they'll be on at that point. And SGP, he's having problems here with Diesel. Not that Diesel's doing anything wrong, but he's not getting past him and going to be able to put pressure on DMR. And the timing and the laps are running out.
Yeah.
He's closing up now. Can he make a move on him?
Well, the question is, does he go bonsai and risk everything? He's having a look up the inside, thinks better of it, goes towards the outside. Diesel is in a great situation here to take a podium position, and to be fair, it's kind of a catch-22 situation for Diesel in that he wants to show what he can do because he's currently a reserve driver, but at the same time, him showing what he can do could potentially stop one of the admins having a championship chance in the last couple of laps. But at the same time, I don't think anyone would want to see Diesel just move out of SGP's way here. Well, SGP might.
SGP.
Yeah. True, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think from SGP's point of view, if he wins a championship, he wants to do it on merit. He doesn't want people to move out of his way like DMR's had people move out of his way.
Where's the Vaseline? Where's the Vaseline? No, I mean, sometimes it comes down to luck, and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, the way the race has been today, anybody could end up in any barrier at any point. And to be fair, even though there's only a minute left on the 40-minute clock, we could still have that. These guys have still got to go through the bus stop chicane one more time, as SGP is once again closing in on the back of Diesel. And I've got to say, I am impressed with how Diesel has been driving. I mean, he's gone defensive there, but he's giving SGP every bit of room that SGP needs, but can't quite get the move done. So yeah, I mean, it's not like Diesel is doing anything wrong at all. He's just driving fairly. Ooh, gone a bit deep though.
Yeah, he's left the door open a bit for SGP, but not got the speed on the exit for SGP there. Yeah, and if I'm right in saying this, I think we're going into the last lap.
Yes, we are, because there's only 20 seconds left on the clock. So the drivers are starting their last lap of the race. Obviously, the leaders have already started their last lap of the race. As Steve F1 is making his way through the bus stop, I'm going to keep an eye on the track map, see if that arrow is not facing the wrong way. And Demon R's arrow, he's also got through the bus stop as well. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if SGP is getting a little disheartened now, knowing that the only way he could probably win it from here is if Steve F1 and Demon R have an absolute disaster in the final half of a lap, as Diesel still going defensive against SGP, but may have just gone too defensive on that occasion if SGP can get a decent run up the hill, but can't quite get it done. And I think that spin is that half spin or spin and cooking the tyres has really shown how costly it is to do that, because in a normal situation I think SGP, no offence to Diesel, but SGP breezes past Diesel. Yeah,
new tyres, you'd expect that to happen. I mean, he still might get past him, but it's going to be a little bit too late for SGP. But it's nice to see that he's not just given up and realised that he can't win the championship and just stuck behind Diesel and not gone for it. He's still challenging all the way to the line by the looks of it.
Yeah, that he is. So the situation as it stands at the moment will mean that Steve F1 is going to win at the race. Yes, he is. He's going to win at the DGT Seaside 2, but it's not going to be enough for him to take the championship. Demon R is going to finish in second place, and that will be enough for the title unless penalties come into it. And Diesel, is he going to hold on to that third spot ahead of SGP? Yes, he is, just as Twilight comes home in fifth place with Dave the Heart right up his gearbox. And then we've got Mitch, Mando, Gary, Groover, SRI, Bonsall, Fluffy's in there as well, and so is Rich Blues. I think he's not happy with his pit crew. Usually you see a guy driving up next to the pit wall celebrating with him. Rich was definitely not doing that in this race.
Yeah, a very eventful race, but I'll tell you what, I was quite surprised it wasn't even more eventful, to be honest with you, with the way that chicane can treat the cars.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing I will say is, I mean, obviously I know I'm going to say something, but I'll come to it in a moment. I just want to say congratulations to Steve F1 on taking the race win there. Absolutely brilliant result for him. And to be fair, won a fair amount of races in this championship. And also mention that we will be seeing the drivers' post-race comments as well. But yeah, what I was going to mention there, Steve, is that last week on commentary, when I had yourself and Ray, I obviously asked the question about how the test had gone over the course of this championship with these cars, and I can agree and understand and agree with your Ray and yours definitely been improvements over the course of this championship. As tough as it's been at times, as frustrating as it may have been at times for people, there has definitely been improvements, because going into that race, or going into doing commentary on that race, I'm thinking we're probably going to see cars crash at the bus stop, but I'm thinking we're going to be seeing cars crashing there because they're going 2 or 3 wide into the bus stop, or 2 or 3 wide into the hairpin after the bus stop. So going 2 and 3 wide in places where really it's not going to happen. And to be fair, what I saw today, yeah, people hit the barriers. You know what? That happens. But the actual racing etiquette, I think, was pretty good today.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I was expecting people who were making late moves up into the braking points and out of braking themselves. It didn't happen. I was expecting to see cars going side by side, or even 3 wide at certain points. But we saw drivers being patient and cautious, and it made for a good race for everyone. Okay, there might be the odd driver in there that felt a bit aggrieved that maybe a move might have been a bit late at one point or two, but that's racing. It's going to happen. And if there's something that you don't like during a race, you report it afterwards. You don't deal with it on the racetrack. Yeah. And I'm not saying we saw anything like that. That's just a general comment. But it was nice to see, and it has taken us near enough the season. Go on.
I was going to say, just let you know, your microphone has gone a little bit raspy. I can still hear you fine. It is just a little bit raspy as well. I think you were about to say that it may have taken all season for drivers to perhaps be that little bit more patient, but it's possible that with these particular cars, it's taken drivers a number of races to sort of get to grips with the car, and then also get to grips with the car and the surroundings and so on. But as far as progress goes, I do think it's still been good progress.
Definitely, all the way through the field.
Whatever you just did to try and fix your microphones made it worse. Sorry, go on. All right, okay.
Hang on then, let me try something that might help. Better.
Yes, actually.
Well, at the moment you're on loudspeaker, so I'm just going to try and turn that on.
Well, that's interesting then. So on loudspeaker and you sounded better. That's weird. Okay, I will mention as well that I'll mention now that from what I gather, there have been no reports put in from this race. That doesn't necessarily mean that nothing happened. It just means that nothing happened that anyone felt needed reporting from that race, which means that the race result will stand as it was. So Demon R will be crowned as the DGT League Xanassin champion, and to be honest, I didn't think he was going to be doing that throughout the course of this race, because it looked like SGP had everything covered, and I've got to say, I feel for SGP the way that race went. He went different on the strategy. Some may question whether that was the right decision. Had he gone with the same strategy as Steve F1 and Demon R, then potentially, he could have still been at the front. But he decided to go try something a little bit different, potentially faster, potentially more aggressive, and had it worked, would have probably been called a mastermind move. But unfortunately, one moment of dipping a wheel over the white line, and along comes a diesel, and unfortunately, things did not go SGP's way.
No, I mean, when you look at the strategy there, at the start of the race, we said all SGP needs to do is win this race. And I think that's all in his mind was, what can I do to win this race? And I've said it before to some of the other drivers as well, that if you focus on trying to win the race, you may not win it. If you just focus on win a good race, there's a good chance you can come out at the front. It's when you put pressure on yourself to do something, it makes it sometimes more difficult to do. So did SGP overthink it? Potentially, but fair play to him for giving it a good go. And if it had not had that spin, we'd have had
it would have been an interesting end.
Yeah, definitely. So will SGP be champion at some point in the future? Most likely. When? Don't know.
No. Well, let's put it this way. I think everyone would agree that he'd done enough over the course of this championship to deserve the title. Well, I don't think De Minaur's going to be handing it over to him, but. Yeah, I mean it's an odd one in a way because Steve F1 and SGP have both won more races than De Minaur this championship, but De Minaur's won it, and unfortunately for the other guys, it comes down to it actually comes down to each of theirs worst races. I think each of theirs worst races, Steve F1 and SGP, unfortunately, in their worst races, ended up down around 10th place. When De Minaur had his worst race, he ended up 5th. So it was kind of like over the whole course, it was just perhaps a little bit of luck. For everybody else, I mean, I've got to say, I mean, David Harp taking his first win in this championship looked like he was going to be a title contender from day one. Unfortunately, he didn't pan out like that over the course of the championship. However, it would appear that he has now fully got his tyre wear issues under control, because that was not a feature over the course of this championship about David Harp burning up his tyres. So big.
To improve his driving, no?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. It sounded like you had your head stuffed up a pillow for a moment. Then it wasn't raspy that time. It was just like, yeah.
I was saying he just needs to improve on his driving now.
Oh right, okay. Let's see. Tyler. Tough end to the season for him. Was there in qualifying for this race, but unfortunately had to disappear. It's been a very tough end of the season for him personally, but for him to finish where he will have done in the championship is absolutely brilliant, considering the disaster he had in the Mazdas, in the Mazda Touring Cup. He didn't get on with that at all. But yeah, I mean, all down the field, I think most people have definitely made improvements. Although I'm pretty sure, for the first time, I think Rich has actually beaten SRI in their beer battle. And if SGP is talking, I've not heard a single word you've said.
No, I got disconnected, I think, for a minute.
Oh right, okay. Okay, so we're having connectivity issues then. Right, okay, in that case, it won't waffle on too much longer. At the end of the day, it's been a fantastic season. I think it's been a difficult one, it's been a tricky one, but pretty sweet overall. I mean, talking about pretty sweet, I read a story today about how a woman has been slammed for stockpiling ice cream, tinned fruit and raspberry sauce. Yeah. Heard from her husband saying that she must be planning to self-isolate for a month for Sundays.
Very funny.
That's the worst one of the lot. I think that's the worst one of the lot. I've saved the worst for last. I will mention though, for anyone that has sent me these bad dad jokes, if I haven't used them, it's simply because it's up against the wrong person. So having used the Abu Dhabi one against Steve wouldn't work. He knows it. Had it been against Ray or James, different scenario. But yeah, okay, time to sort of bring this to an end then. We'll check out the confirmed race result and the championship standings, but just before Steve disappears, just to confirm, the next championship, the Walker Memorial Trophy in the Toyota Supra RZ97, starts on what date?
I believe it to be the 14th of May.
Okay, good stuff. For any of the drivers who are not aware of what the settings will be for that championship, Where Have You Been? It's been put on multiple videos, multiple posts, there's been plastered all over the place, and I think there may also be another post coming about it soon, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. And obviously,
can't
hear you. Sorry Steve, can't hear you.
Carry on.
No, what was you saying? Because all I'm getting was muffle.
No, I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh, so you say that, and then that was fine. Okay, sorry to be a pain. It's coming through really muffled, and I can't hear what you're saying most of the time. Okay, everybody, sorry about the audio problems there. Steve is back with us. You were just saying, Steve?
Yeah, what's important for the drivers with the settings is just to make sure they've got their brake horsepower and weight settings set correctly, because it's a season where we're not using BOP.
Oh yeah, that is an excellent point. Yeah, definitely. So I mean, if they haven't got their brake horse set high enough or their weight too high, then yeah, that it'll be their own fault and they'll be slow. Also, am I right in thinking that you're still going to be having fun races on the Thursday nights for the next 2 weeks in the off season?
Yes, we are going to be doing that, but also on the Monday nights, we're going to still be doing a bit of a practice session, a bit of a get-together like we normally do.
And that being so that the drivers can get used to driving the Supra, because, and we'll be saying this a lot over the course of the next championship, it's not a race car.
Yeah, don't forget, it's not a race car.
It's not a race car. Okay, thank you, Steve, for joining me on commentary. Also, thank you, Ray, for joining me on commentary. I really winded him up, to be fair. He's got a new grill to play with. Sorry, was that girl? No, it is grill. My apologies, I couldn't read my own handwriting. Okay, I think it's time to check out the final race results then, and the completed championship standings as we end the Xanassin championship. So here we go then. Steve F1 taking the victory in the maximum 20 points. Demon R finishing in second place, taking 17 points, and he finished ahead of Diesel. Diesel's brilliant result there, taking the final podium position, earned 15 points, finishing just in front of SGP, who unfortunately that fourth place has cost him the opportunity of the title there. Twilight with a brilliant result, finishing in fifth place, taking 11 points, finished just ahead of Dave the Harp in sixth, and Mitch in seventh, with Mandalorian, who had a few difficulties towards the end, finished in eighth place ahead of Formula Gary in ninth, his best result for a few races, and then Groover in 10th. SRI finished in 11th ahead of Fluffy Planet in 12th, who finished just in front of Bunsell in 13th. Jimmy finishes in 14th with 2 points, and Rich Blues, as we saw, was not happy with something at the end of the race there, and he manages to take the final points, the point paying position. And Tyler unfortunately did not make it to the start line. He was there during qualifying, but did have to unfortunately take a sabbatical. Okay, a fantastic race there from all of the drivers. It's been a very interesting championship, so I guess it's only right to now have a look at what this result has done to the championship standings. Well, that result has mixed a few things around, but Demon R once again takes a championship, his sixth in Dynamic GT League, with 142 points. However, it was ever so close with Steve F1 and SGP, and Steve F1 taking the victory here has managed to jump ahead of SGP into that second spot on 138 points. SGP dropping down to third on 136. Tyler, although he wasn't able to race today, manages to hold on to that fourth place, a brilliant result over the course of the championship for him. Dave the Heart with a brilliant recovery to retake fifth place on 88 points, with Mitch, who's had to be fair, a brilliant full season, debut full season, in sixth place and 85 points, just ahead of Mandalorian, who dropped down to seventh on 81. Twilight, with his result, manages to hold on to 8th place with 65 points, and Fluffy Planet, a very difficult championship for him. He's been finishing in the top 4 or 5 over the last few seasons, but this one has definitely been a tough one for him, and he finishes 6 points ahead of Jason. Bunsell finishes in 11th place, to be fair, a very good championship for him, 41 points, and he finishes ahead of Rich Blues, who was beating his main rivals in the form of Jimmy in 13th place. He's only done it by 2 points, but he's still beating him. Groover finishes in 14th place on 27 points, and Diesel, very impressive debut reserve drives he's had, being able to bag 25 points in I think 2 races it is. He manages to jump ahead of Formula Gary, who manages to stay ahead of DGT League SRI in 17th. Conrad still on the 9 points. I have to say though, some drivers have found this car rather tricky to get on with. However, some have really got to grips with it as the championship has gone on, and maybe some would have preferred the championship to have gone on a little longer, but it's not the way the DGT League runs. 9 races at the moment is how the championships are decided, and it won't be long until the next championship is underway. The Walker Memorial Trophy using the Toyota Supra RZ97 with some beautiful liveries on that car, some interesting liveries as well. A bit of a mix up to the regulations as well, as at the end of the day it is the Dynamic GT League and things do change, so yeah, it could be an absolutely fascinating championship. Few questions to be asked in that one as well. Will Demon R be making it a 7th championship? Will Steve F1 be making it a 2nd for him? Will SGP finally get to lift the title as he really deserves to do? Or will somebody else sneak along and take one before he can? Only time will tell, and that'll be 9 races in the Supra. Thank you very much everyone for joining us over the course of the championship. Feel free to like, subscribe, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for all of the action in the WMTs. Have a good one folks, stay safe, stay home, save lives. See you all again soon.